It's a little bit of a steep hill. Can I switch this camera around? Hold on. Get a little bit of the ride. Hi everybody, how are you? Welcome to Aimee Nolte Music. That was just kind of a silly little skateboard ride to start the video off with. How is everybody? Friday, middle of the day. It's beautiful in Southern California. It's like 75 degrees. I can never go outside and make a live video or any video in Southern California in August, but today I can. This whole week, it's kind of cool. It's like 81 is the high, I think, so that's really nice. So I came up to a park that I thought would be kind of secluded, where I could hang out for a little bit. Friday evening in the UK. Yeah, weekend just about for you guys. And talk about things other than music today. Why not? A little bit we could talk about music, I suppose. But with the video I put out yesterday to try to help everybody to find a music teacher, I was thinking maybe just talking about kind of musicians' lives and business and stuff going on. Like, that might be cool. You see my Santa Cruz skateboard? Ooh, pintail, longboard. I know some of you will be mad that I was without a helmet, but it was just for a second. Just for a second. I had too much stuff to carry. Have the musicians found students? Good question. A couple of them have written to me, like 3 of them, I think, and said, thank you, I've gotten at least 1 student. So that's cool. When I made it, I kind of thought if we could just get 1 student for any one of these musicians, that it will have been a success. So I feel good about that. And maybe there's more and they just didn't tell me yet. That's a high possibility. But it's a rough thing to be a musician and to lose your gigs. Like, who would have ever thought that you could lose your gig through no fault of your own? I lost a gig not long ago, but I guess it was through, well, it was my fault. Not really, but it was the fault of a terrible club manager. That's the only way I've ever lost gigs before. Let's see. How often do I have to gig in places that are out of my comfort zone? That's a good question. And do I think the male jazz vocalist has disappeared in modern times? No, not so much. I mean, like, it just happened to me yesterday. It happens often. I went into one of my heroes' live streams on Instagram. I don't want to say who it is, but somebody who's like been a hero of mine for a long time, but doesn't have like a huge following. And so I was one of the only people in the live streams, and they didn't know who I was. And I said, you know, I've been a fan for a long time. I used to come watch your gigs or whatever. And all they could see was my profile picture, and they just said, are you a singer? And that, you know, I don't really take offense, I guess, but it's the first thing people think of when they see a woman who's involved in jazz, that she must be a singer. So that's, I mean, it's just a little stigma. And I think probably, you're right, probably there are more female singers than male. But there's some great male singers. in the world, and even more kind of coming up. So I don't know, I think maybe it's changing, especially as jazz and hip hop kind of cross over. And hey, thanks for hanging out, everybody. It's good to see you. And oh, somebody asked about a gig outside of my comfort zone. I guess that gig I lost last year that I was just briefly telling you about was out of my comfort zone. I took it because Mike got it. Mike, my guitar player, he said there's this new place. It's supposed to be great. It's gonna have it's just gonna be geared toward jazz. Like the owner loves jazz, and you would think that that's, I don't know, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a horrible thing, because you don't know what kind of jazz the owner really likes or who they really like. And oftentimes you go to the gig and then you can hear what's playing on the PA system or like the background in the restaurant, and then you kind of get a feel for what kind of jazz the owner might like, and that can be scary sometimes. And then I sat down at the piano. It looked like a grand piano, but it wasn't. It was a digital piano with a wooden housing. And as I sat there and Mike sat next to me and we were setting up, the waiter came and put place settings on the piano. Like placemats, forks, plate on the fake piano housing. And that that was my first clue that maybe this gig was out of my comfort zone, I guess. Yeah, so that one, I mean, that was the first thing. We played there once, and the thing that happened was they had all the sound dialed in to their iPad. Some dude who was like the guy we had to deal with was controlling our sound on his iPad throughout the whole restaurant. It turned out we couldn't control our monitors. That was so annoying. There were beautiful QSC monitors, and I cranked it all the way to the top, and I was hitting that digital piano, and I had my own volume cranked all the way to the top, and I could just barely hear it. And so, I tried to say something. If you could, figure it out, we can't turn ourselves up any louder, so I can't hear myself, and he didn't know how. So the whole night, Mike and I had to play. He could hear himself all right, but he couldn't hear me. I couldn't hear me. Apparently the people could hear me. They could hear both of us, but if you can't hear yourself, that's the worst. Because what ended up happening was I was playing, you try not to, but subconsciously, I ended up playing louder than I would normally play and like digging into the keyboard and hurting my fingers, really. So it was, 3 hours for, I can't remember, $150 in dinner or something. The main reason I took the gig was because it was with Mike. We could practice, we could, work on our repertoire. It was kind of fancy. I don't know. It was on the beach, Laguna Beach. And then the next time we went back, Mike was like, do you even want to go back? I was like, not really, but let's give it a shot one more time. Because some players we knew were playing there. Like our friends, they all had gigs there. So I thought maybe after all of them were there and they played all their gigs, like maybe they got it dialed in better. So we went back, and the guy came and sat next to me who was running the sound. And I said to him, hey, if you could figure out how I can hear myself in the monitor better, that would be really good. Because last time I had it cranked all the way to the top and I was kind of hurting my fingers because I couldn't hear myself. And anyway, if you could figure that one out for me, that would be amazing. And he goes, man, it's been so long, I can't remember exactly what he said. But oh man, what did he say? Oh, he turned to me and he goes, you want me to tell you a little something? Or you want me to, can I teach you a little something? I think he said that. Can I give you a little lesson? Something like that. And I said, okay. And Mike is over here, like, he kind of can't hear, but he kind of can hear. And he goes, I'm the one who hired you. I gave you this job. And you're telling me what to do and how to run this sound? I'm just looking at him. He's like this far away from me, like a hand away from me. And he goes, really, you need a lesson in professionalism and about not bossing people around who are writing your paycheck. And I just looked at Mike, and Mike goes, Aimee, would you like to go home now? And I said, yes. I said, we quit. And then we walked out. That was the most uncomfortable situation I've been in a long time. Just, right, like, and then it turned out like I went on a Yelp and I read reviews of the place. So many people had complained about that guy, about the way he treated them. Anyway, I mean, you don't need that. But the first tip should have been, the digital piano in the fake housing. Tip number one, right? Like, that should have tipped me off. Second was the place settings on the piano. I'm not that desperate. And there were, that first night that we played, people sat on the piano almost. They ate on the piano. That's, why are they gonna do that? Oh my gosh. If you are uncomfortable in a gig, you gotta get the heck out of there. I didn't need to wait for that guy to teach me a lesson. Kidding me? Yeah. You run into situations like that. I mean, it was always my dream to have somebody say, like, we're not gonna have you back here anymore, you know, you're fired. And I said, well, you can't fire me because I quit. Like, it was almost that kind of a moment. Like, it was kind of sweet looking over at Mike. He said that thing, and then I was like, we quit. And then we left. But I'd lie if I didn't say that my heart wasn't racing a million miles per hour. I hate confrontation. And it was. So it was also like, at that point, once he started teaching me that lesson, I was like, I think I was kind of living on adrenaline or something. And I remember walking out of there and I just like, I don't know, I felt like sprinting across the street. Or it was PCH, the Pacific Coast Highway, so I didn't. That's why I just felt like sprinting or something, you know. It was a, like heightened kind of experience that I hope never happens again. So for that reason, I'm not sorry to, not be out in the world playing gigs. But for me, when I started YouTube and realized it was gonna like be a force in my life to like take over, kind of, I quit all my gigs and I quit saying yes to gigs for the first time. Yeah, it was a little bit of preaching instead of a lesson. It was really just him being a big old D-bag is what it was. But I mean, I've got a video that says the best advice I ever heard was to say yes to every gig. And for a really long time, that was right for me. And I think it's, if you've got the, the stomach to take in some of that stuff and the heart, it's a good thing to take every gig because you learn a lot. And I mean, most importantly, when you're taking every gig, you're learning tunes. You're learning variations of tunes and what this bass player might play over these changes that you've never heard before. You're learning things about the room, about how to communicate, about how to use your equipment, all these kind of things. Really important. So I do say take every gig you can get when there are gigs, when you're young. But for me, then when YouTube became a thing for me, and I realized that I probably didn't need to take as many gigs, and I probably couldn't take that many gigs if I was gonna give my all to YouTube. Then I didn't anymore. And the only kind of gigs that I had one weekly gig that I kept at a sushi place because I had it forever and I love it. And they just let me do whatever the heck I want. They never say a word to me about, turn up or turn down. Nobody will ever tell you to turn up. They never tell me to turn down. And there's so many regulars there, and I love that place. So I'm sad that I missed my Friday night sushi gig. But other than that, I just, from YouTube, I started getting offers to go be like a clinician or guest artist, adjudicator at festivals around the country at different colleges. And that was nice. Those are nice gigs to have. And I do miss that. I was just telling, I was in the car with Louie yesterday, And I was telling him, I do kind of miss hopping on a plane all by myself, going to a place I've never been before, checking into a hotel, knowing I can set the AC at whatever temperature I want. I can pull the curtains totally black. I can, you know, go get something to eat when I want. Like, those are things that as just a mom, I don't get to do all the time, to like make my own decisions and do them solely based on what I want. And so I was telling Louis, I missed that a little bit. And then, of course, interacting with the different, you know, professors I would meet and the kids that I would meet and I get to hear kids playing jazz. That's like a dream, just to like hear the future of music in our country. That was really cool. And I do miss those gigs, and I'm really thankful for YouTube for the opportunity to have those gigs, because I didn't have them before. Before I had YouTube, I was just raising my kids and practicing and playing gigs. That was about it. And surfing and skateboarding. Always trying to have fun no matter what, but I wasn't getting asked to go do things like that. So YouTube was a real nice thing for me. But I do feel a little bit, sometimes I feel a little bit guilty, because when everybody lost their gigs, I didn't have any. And my main source of income was intact, and maybe even doing a little better, because people were home to watch the YouTube. And I've kind of grappled with that a little bit, and I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of my musician friends about how they're doing. And I mean, what happened was a lot of people reached out to me to ask how to set up their home studios, how to teach online, how to maybe start a YouTube channel, or maybe get on Twitch, or do Facebook Lives or Instagram Lives. And so I did help as many people, and I still will, as many people as I can, to just, I mean, I'm not like you guys know, I'm not like any tech genius or something. Hey, shout out to the trash can. I didn't even realize it's been here the whole time. Shout out to the trash can. But yeah, so I do feel a little bit of a, I don't know about responsibility, but I did want to try to help some people, because the live streaming, like I said, I don't think it's panning out as well as people thought. I do see people being creative with it. Rubbish. That's right. It's rubbish. For instance, Tierney Sutton and Tamir Handelman just gave a concert last night. I couldn't watch it, but I saw that the thing that they decided to do was to advertise the crap out of it, like, you know, Facebook and Instagram sponsored ads, and they decided to charge people, and I'm not sure what they charged them, maybe $15 or $20 a piece, I think, to do a live stream concert. And I don't know if they were in the same room or not, but there is that streaming, I don't even know what you call it, but I just heard about it, called Jack something. I won't talk about it because I can't remember it exactly. But if you're within a 500-mile radius, Christian McBride, he did an ad for it. And he talked all about how it's possible to live stream with people who are not in the same room as you, that could be 100 miles away or 500 miles away, he said. And you have no latency, or very little latency that can't be detected by the human ear. I don't know if Tierney and Tamir used that or not, but they might have, or they might have been in the same room, just kind of social distancing or something. But anyway, all they did, when you clicked on their sponsored Facebook ad, it took you straight to buy something from PayPal, like to purchase their, like a ticket to their show. And then it was like restricted how many people could come. So it wasn't a live stream, it was more like a concert that you paid to be at. I thought that was really creative and cool. And it was probably really good too, because those are top-notch musicians. I know there have been some questions coming through, and I've been just running my mouth. So if you want to ask them again, go ahead, because I haven't seen them so much. But I will now. If you ask them again, I promise. I know somebody asked what I like to do other than music, and Oh yeah, people are asking about like music groups and if I like Jacob Collier and Earth, Wind and Fire and stuff. Well, first, to finish the first thing, I love to have fun. I'm an extrovert, and if I get like cooped up too much or not interacting with enough people, I start to get a little bit sad. So if I can just like keep myself interacting and having a lot of fun, usually out in nature, I like to do that. So I've been surfing once a week at least, and twice a week if I can. There's this beach here called Trails at San Onofre on the bluffs that you have to, it's a state park, so you have to pay $15 to get in, and once you get in, you have to hike all the way down a very steep trail, and so a lot of people just don't know about it, or they don't go because maybe they don't want to pay the money, or maybe they don't want to take that steep hike. But it's my favorite place, and I've been going with my family at sunset and surfing sunset until we can't see anymore. And everybody packs up at sunset and they go back up the hill, and then we're the only ones, and there's nobody out there. And there's been this beautiful gray cloud cover in the sky, and so it turns the water gray, and then if you just look out, you can't even tell where the water ends and the sky begins, and there's no wind. I could talk a really long time about how nice it is to surf at sunset. That kind of thing, that's my favorite. And yeah, I love to be in the water a lot. Sharks feed at sunset and sunrise. Well, I'll tell you what, it's worth it. And absolutely, I love Jacob Collier. His Jesse Volume 3 drops a week from today. I can't believe how many singles the dude's dropped from his album already, right? I keep asking my kids, like, is it normal for like pop artists? I mean, he's not really a pop artist, but to drop so many singles before the album drops? Because I've only ever dropped 2, I think. I mean, I haven't done it that much. But anyway, I'm really excited for Jacob's album to come out. I can't wait to hear the rest of the tracks. And I love so many of the tracks that he's already released from it. Time to rest your weary head. That's a really good one. I tend to love his slower, simpler songs, but I also really like, gosh, his new one with Tori Kelly. Oh man. And his collabs, what the heck? Ty Dolla $ign, Mahalia, like, he's just really, 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 really doing exciting things in music, and it's awesome. How do you get students as a young teacher? Good question. I guess I only know my own experience through that. And mine was that I was in college, and the main dude, like the better piano player than me, who was graduating, Steve Anderson was his name, and he teaches in Texas now. He's a great piano player. He was leaving, and he had all these students, and I didn't have, well, I had some, I guess. Actually, that's one thing, when you get to be like a junior and senior in your department, your music department, and if you're doing a pretty good job, I guess, they might ask you to teach. It was called, at BYU where I went, it was called 160R lessons. They were like lessons to non-music majors. So I had a bunch of those. Those didn't pay so great, but I had those, I guess like 6 or 7 students that I taught, and I was on the payroll through the school while I was still going to school, and that was nice. But when Steve graduated, he gave me all his students. Oh my gosh, $12 for 40 minutes. And there was one student's mom who was rich, and she gave me $15 for 40 minutes. And I thought that was the big time. So I had like, I don't know, 15, 20 students as soon as I graduated, and I taught like that for a while, till I basically got burnt out on it and decided that I probably didn't want to be teaching little kids. That was a eye-opener for me a little bit. But your band has used CD Baby for distribution. Oh, your comment went away. I use CD Baby for distribution, and I think it's fine. And I think DistroKid might be also a really good option. And they reached out to me, and I feel kind of bad that I haven't used them yet, but I just didn't want to get set up on a whole other platform, because there's a lot of stuff to fill out when you're worrying about distribution. And I just didn't feel like doing another thing, to be honest. But everybody says good things about DistroKid. So, and plus CD Baby just dropped their store, which a lot of musicians are mad about, but I'm not really mad about it. I don't know. They still ask me for CDs to sell through Amazon, I guess. And those are the ones that we're selling anyway. And I don't know, it probably just wasn't viable for them anymore. But some musicians, especially older ones, are really ticked off about that. I don't think I can scroll back, Frank. Oh, you're right. I can't look at that. Now I'm an older musician. It said, but they're getting disenchanted. Getting disenchanted. Yeah. I'd check out DistroKid. You're right. I can totally scroll. I don't usually use my phone, so that's what I'm doing today. And now I can scroll back, and that's nice. What's the biggest thing I've gotten out of lockdown? That I love my family. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I feel so bad for people who are without people, and that's been the biggest thing for me. Sometimes I just look at those guys and I just say, I'm so glad that I'm with you guys, because they're my best friends. My kids, I've got 3 kids at home right now, and they're 19 and 17 and 14, and John, and the 5 of us just have such a good time together. I mean, sometimes we're like any other family, I suppose, and well, I don't know, we're probably always like any other family, really, but sometimes we're all in our own place in the house and on our devices or watching something or doing our own thing, like everybody. But a lot of the time we really, really have kind of stretched and reached to be creative during this pandemic, or the pandemic, hadn't been another one for us. And that's my biggest thing, is I'm really, really thankful for the people I live with. Hey, you're welcome, Jonathan. I like the Beatles. Yeah, and I do think it's important too, if you can find somebody that you wish you were with, I think you can both quarantine for 2 weeks and then make a pod of new quarantine and have, somebody to be with. I have a friend who's single, and she has a really good male friend, and the 2 of them have decided to share their dog, actually. Or a dog, so they take turns with who has the dog, and every week they flip-flop and they have dinner together, and they're just really, really careful, and then they trust each other, and I think that's really nice too. But yeah, that's the biggest lesson for me. I love those guys. Oh my gosh. And I'm so glad I picked my John too, because we don't get tired of each other. It's a pretty cool thing. Should we walk a little bit? Or skate a little bit? I only wore my flip-flops, so I'm probably not gonna skate anymore. But let's walk a little bit. I'm at the park right now. It's a beautiful park, I'll show you. That's attached to the place where my kids went to elementary school. Nobody can play on any playground right now, right? Like, playgrounds are all off limits, but as long as you don't stay put too long in a park here in Southern California, you can be in one, which is nice. At least most of them right now. Isn't it nice? Such a huge field. Baseball field over there, soccer field right there, mailman right there. What are your favorite? Oh, somebody asked if I had a favorite song. No, a favorite chord. Hey, you're welcome, Gil. Thanks for hanging out. Advice for band leading. Wait, that's a pretty good question. I guess it's a life question, right? And hi, Christian, how are you? You said you're leading a band and you're playing hard music. Well, I can't stress enough. If you're leading a band and you're playing hard music, everybody has to do their homework. And if you've got somebody in your band who's not doing their homework, this is not going to go well for you. Like, the times that I've played really, really hard music, I've thought, I have to do my part. I've got to be solid. So I do everything I can to learn exactly what I'm supposed to learn. But I've had situations where I get to the gig and we haven't rehearsed, and I just assume that everybody else has also done their part, and they haven't. They're gonna wing it, and it messes everything up. No fun at all. So I've had that happen, and I hope it never happens again. But I think doing your homework is vital, and also I think that rehearsing is vital, and going over any parts that you find tricky at all. Bring your pencil or your Sharpie. You want to be able to see the notes that you make, or on your iPad or whatever, but you gotta make sure everybody's on the same page with everything. That's my biggest advice for you there. I guess I have a favorite chord. It's that one that's like I have a video about it, and I call it let's see, what do I call that video? The chord that shouldn't work, I think. Yeah. And it's like a D minor over B7 kind of sound. Is that? I can't remember. I like that chord. And do I listen to hip hop? Absolutely, I listen to hip hop. I'm glad also to have my kids, because sometimes I think that after they move out, I might not be up on current music anymore, but they keep me on my toes, and they're always showing me everything new. We've been listening to Beyonce's new music and watching Black is King. It's amazing. And gosh, all of the songs I've heard, I'm just like, it's a good song. Oh my gosh. The one that she does with Kendrick, I can't remember what it's called. It's amazing. We've been listening to Taylor Swift's new album too, and that's really good. I like a lot about that. I like that she went back to a little more of an acoustic sound. And I know she's got a team of like so many songwriters, but they're really, really smart lyrics. So I've been enjoying listening to that with my kids lately. And I'm trying to think, I'm super excited for Jacob Collier's album to come out too. My big worry is that people are unsure about what to try next in their journey, and they're letting them get them down. And I just kind of feel like this is a time to figure stuff out, and I think it's a time for us and for the whole world to just realize that things have to change in so many different ways. And there's nothing wrong with change and with reassessing everything. I mean, things don't have to work the way they've always worked. No, I haven't heard of Moses Sumney. I'll have to look him up. Things can look different. You can think about something you'd like to try to do, and you can give it a shot. If it works, you can keep it, and if it doesn't work, you can throw it out, and you can try something absolutely new. And you can just. One of my good friends, Angela Parrish, has set up sessions where she just calls people and they just brainstorm for like an hour about what they might do now. I think that's a really good idea, to just ask other people what they're doing and bounce ideas off of each other. But for me, YouTube has been a godsend. It's been amazing. I mean, it's not easy, but I'm really, really glad that I have it. And lately, I try not to care about how the video is going to do as much, because I can almost never predict which ones are going to do well and which ones can't do well or won't do well. It's just like, it's kind of a crapshoot. So I quit putting so much energy into trying to think of something that people will like. And I don't know, I haven't done that all the time, but the thing that I found with YouTube the most is that if I can only make videos about the things that really excite me, then those are good videos. Whether or not anybody watches them, or very many people watch them, or they get shared or whatever, as long as I make something that I'm proud of, that's all that really matters. And I think that crosses over with not just YouTube, but with anything. If you're trying to compose something and you want to write for and you write for the wrong reason, like you think, what do people want to hear right now? What would make people press play a lot on Spotify and re-stream your song? That's the wrong. You don't want to do that. You always want to make something that you're proud of. Thank you, Ziggy. I like that. Thank you so much. Trying to get a better angle. That's not so bad. My do I like Earth, Wind, and Fire was a question, right? And yeah, I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. Trying to think what my favorite songs are. I like Something Happened Along the Way. That's a really good one. That one's... Guys, I don't want my nose to be lit up. Now I'm a little self-conscious. All right, there we go. That one's called After the Love Is Gone, right? That one has really, really cool chord changes. Yeah, that one's really good. That's probably my favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire song, I would say. David Foster, did he write that? I don't know about that. Somebody just wrote David Foster. I don't know what a stage it show is, Greg. I'm gonna have to look that up. Should you buy Mark Levine's book to learn jazz? I bought Mark Levine's book to play jazz, and it helped me a lot. It helped me when I couldn't afford many albums, because I couldn't hear enough jazz, and I kept having to wait for the CDs to come in the mail back in 1995 and 96, and so his book helped me a lot when I didn't have access to albums. But once I got a good collection of really great jazz to listen to, then I kind of took what Mark Levine had taught me in that book and found all the instances in my records or my CDs where they where the players were using them, because they were using them. You just learn your rootless voicings, and then you realize that that's largely what Bill Evans did with his left hand when he played with a band. And I transcribed for a long time Bill Evans to make money, and any time he came across like a E flat minor 7 chord, I thought, well, I would play G flat, B flat, D flat, F. Sounds like what he's playing. Yeah, that's what it is. Or in the inversion, that'll happen, and you got your D flat and F and G flat and B flat. Like, there aren't that many variations of what somebody's going to do with their left hand very often. Of course, there's exceptions, but Mark Levine's book kind of hipped me to the fact that there were some core things, and he had learned them from all the masters, and he put them in his book, and then you can just hear where they do it and add to your playing because of what you hear. So my advice is that Mark Levine's book will kind of tell you what everybody's doing, piano players anyway, and you can learn those concepts on your own, but actually listening to the great albums is the way to figure out how to employ those things and where they're used, and that to me is of much higher value than Mark Levine's book. But it depends on how you learn too. For me, I'll learn a concept, like say when I was studying Mark Levine's chapters on drop 2 voicings. And I'll mess around with it, and I'll mess around with it and the different examples, and then I'll try to put them in practice and do them in different keys. But then the next question I ask myself is, well, where am I going to use this? How am I going to use it? What song am I going to use it on? What part of the song am I going to use it on? And how do I do that? Those are important questions that sometimes, you know, learning concepts from a book you'll forget to do those things. You'll think, all right, I've got to master this concept. But if you can't sit and think, all right, well, you know, what if I play The Shadow of Your Smile? Can I use it in that song, and where can I use it? Because then you got to take your skills out to the real world, right? And employ all those things that you learned. So I love his book, and he has a jazz theory book too, which is excellent. And you can also use him as a resource for the rest of your life. Anytime you have a question about something, or you hear somebody say a concept, you can always go back to those books and look them up and teach yourself. Yeah, it's really nice to be able to teach yourself, especially if you can't go to school right now. Is playing piano just as fresh for me as it was 10 years ago? Yeah, definitely 10 years ago. Yeah. Maybe not, what am I, 42? Maybe not 30 years ago. Like when I was 10, that was a whole new world. Sometimes I wish I could feel like I was discovering the piano again, like I was when I was 10. That was exciting. But it's always exciting. I always hear people do new things, and I sit down and try to figure them out, and there will always be more of that. Let's see, you usually start with 8 or 16 bars of a composition and then get stuck how to develop it into a full-blown song. Any tips? Yeah, like you have that's a common problem, I think. People get going, or they have a little idea, and then they think, how do I make this longer than 8 or 16 bars? For me, it's been different every time. Often it involves living with the thing that you created for a while, like not forcing it. I rarely force anything. If it doesn't kind of happen organically for me, I don't typically go for it. So I always think when I'm making something new that the right thing is out there somewhere, like kind of already existing, and all I have to do is tap into it. Easier said than done. But those initial ideas that you get, those are everything. Keep them, you know, write them down or sing them into your phone or whatever. That's your gold right there. And then you just have to keep living with it. Think, what does that mean to me? What kind of a thing is this? Are these 16 bars saying? What's it feel like? Like, if I had to put a lyric to it, what would it be? And what's it about, and how does that feel? And sometimes that can give you the answer to where you need to go next. But also just playing what you've got, stopping, and singing what comes into your head next can be really, really important. Because for me, that's how I do tap into those, like, what's out there, like what could this song be, and just kind of grab it and try it. But if you're just scrambling for notes on your instrument, maybe an E flat major chord here, or, let's do something different, how about A Lydian? Like, I guess you might find something exciting just by trying like that, but it's not my style. I don't like to just try. I like to listen in the silence and see what I want to sing, and then try to play that. I hope that helps. Yeah, sometimes you do copy things, and people will let you know. If you did copy somebody, somebody's gonna let you know. Chances are it'll be your spouse. A lot of times John will say, oh, this reminds me of this song. Is it the same? And I'll be like, oh yeah, it is a little bit, but it's enough different that it's okay with me. Hey Robert, thank you. Oh, I'm glad you liked that, the piece I did with the Marine van, You Only Live Twice, from the James Bond film. That was cool. They sent that to me, and I didn't know the tune, but they sent me a really great vocal chart, and I kind of read it down once, and then I think I recorded it on the second read. It's like a beautiful melody, and and it just got in my ears after I read it that one time, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. So anyway, that was really good. What do I think about all the copying accusations in music right now? I'm a funny person to ask because I probably got hammered on my did Phil Collins rip off Elton John video, like more than I ever have gotten hammered on any video I've ever made. Like that really made people mad, and that's okay. I think in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have used the word rip off. I think I used that word a little more like willy-nilly than most people do. I should have just said borrowed or made something that was just a little less abrasive. Well, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. But I just think it's so fun to think of stuff like that and to ask yourself questions about music. I mean, if you lived in my house, you would hear a bunch of those kind of questions about, did this person rip off this person, or where did this idea come from, or how many songs use this one idea, how many can we think of? Like, those are just that's just kind of the way my wheels are turning most of the time when I'm listening or thinking about music. And so for me, that video about Phil Collins and Elton John, it was just like another day, just another day. But that was a Phil Collins pun. So it's no big deal. But then when you put it out to, you know, thousands of Phil Collins fans, they get a little bit offended by that. And I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to offend any Phil Collins fans, or to suggest that he was anything less than what he is. But I do think the better answer for that video that I didn't have at the time I made the video, but people said in the comments, and I think they're totally right, is that there might be a Disney formula. And they might have said, we like the way that this song sounds. Can you make something that kind of sounds like it? And maybe it grew out of that. And, you know, maybe not, too. Like, maybe I'm totally wrong and just it's a coincidence. And it's not even that big of a coincidence. But anyway, I think, I don't know, Adam Neely has really great content about, he talked about Katy Perry and that whole lawsuit or whatever. I think he kind of said all there is to say. If you want to watch a good video about copywriting in music and lawsuits and everything, go watch that one. Somebody asked if I have favorite novels or writers, and I do. I just finished a great Toni Morrison book about, what was it called? Blue Eyes, something about blue. I think it was her first novel. I really enjoyed that one. And now I'm hopping back into my favorite author, who is Charles Dickens, and reading a novel that I haven't read yet, which is Nicholas Nickleby. Yes, Song of Solomon. That's one that I need to read. I haven't read that one yet. Toni Morrison, right? Oh, I was just talking about Taylor Swift. You'll have to rewind, but I like it. I think it's really good. And yeah, I absolutely love Charles Dickens. Yeah, Bleak House, Hard Times. One of my favorites is Our Mutual Friend. I love that one. I love A Tale of Two Cities. I think my very, very favorite is David Copperfield. There's something about the way that he taps into characters that makes me feel like I'm just there with him. And he's always got like so many surprising little, you know, plot twists and stuff that keep my interest. And I have some kind of an interest in old-timey England. For some reason, I like to watch a lot of shows from the BBC and from the UK. Just I don't know, I like that stuff a lot. Dickens got paid by the word, so he was too wordy sometimes. Yeah, I suppose he's a little wordy sometimes, but yeah, I really enjoy reading. And right now, Nicholas Nickleby. Oh, you're right. The Beatles did record "Till There Was You." Yeah, they did do a good job of taking from the American Songbook and also from artists that they loved before them that influenced them, didn't they? People still do that, right? Happens. People covering their favorite songs still. It does. And I like to do that too. What's my favorite instrument to play? It's the piano, I guess. It's the piano. I really like to sing though. I like to sing a lot. I kind of buried that for a while, but I'm glad that I don't bury it anymore. I can't do a kick flip. Are you kidding me? I'm just a hack longboarder. That's it. No kick flip. Oh, I got into a video game, which I'd never do. But when I couldn't surf because the beaches were closed, I wanted to surf so badly. So I looked up surfing video games, and there's this video game called True Surf, and you feel like you're freaking riding that wave. And so I like to play that video game. Other than that, video games for me have been mastering the Super Mario Brothers games. Like I could beat all of those. I probably still could. It's funny when I sit down and play those old NES games. I still remember like where all the warp zones are and the little tricks and getting those whistles. And my kids are like, "How do you know where that is?" And I don't know. I haven't thought of it in like 25 years, but it's still there. And Mike Tyson's Punch Out was a favorite of mine, and also one called I can't remember. Metro? No, it wasn't Metro. It's the one where you press down and the little dude gets in a ball and he rolls along. You can bomb things. This is a big tangent. It wasn't called Metro, but it sounds like that. Somebody's gonna know. And Tetris. Metroid! That's what it was. Yeah, I like that game, Metroid. You could go backwards and forwards in it. You could go back and do things that wasn't in all the NES games. What initially inspired me to learn the piano? It was there. I think that was it. It was there. We had one. Yeah. And I think it was also cool, Jonathan. It was also the fact that my family members sang to me a lot. We did a ton of singing as my mom and my grandma mostly. We lived in this tiny town, so we always had to go to the bigger town. I grew up in Weaverville, and you had to always go to Reading to get groceries, or that's where I took piano lessons, was in Reading. It was an hour away. And so every single Saturday, we drove to Reading and back. That's just an hour. But they sang to keep me quiet a lot, or we listened to the radio, and I just loved it. So I think singing got me hooked. And then there was a piano, so I played. So if you want your kids to get into piano, like, you might just get one and see what comes of it. I just went over and, started playing it, or trying to figure things out until my mom said maybe we should get her lessons. Thank you, Han Solo. Han Solo is one of my favorite characters in the Star Wars movies. Nice username. What should you do to improve your voice and get a good hold on pitches? I think you got to get a teacher if you're not sure about your pitch. I mean, there are apps, tuning apps, that you can use to see if your voice is in tune or not. I have a video about the INS tuner. It's an old video now, so there's probably better apps, but that's one that I like, to just see if you can hold a pitch and if you're right on or not with your pitch. But if you don't have somebody to sing to let you know how you're doing, then you don't know. And sometimes I'll see people who they're piano players and they want to start singing, and they think that they can sing, but their pitch is everywhere. So yeah, I'm not a voice teacher, but a good voice teacher is, it's key, I think. And gosh, if you want to get one of those, how about reaching out to my friend Sarah Lieb? She's a wonderful vocal coach, SARALEIB, and you can just go right to her website now and schedule your own lesson. She's expensive, but she's worth it. She coaches all kind of pop stars and stuff, but she's also like killer jazz singer. You should check out her albums. Hey, I'm glad, Benjamin. That's awesome. I'm glad that you're 4 years into piano and you still absolutely love it. Do I recommend getting a really nice digital piano or an acoustic piano? It just depends on your budget. If you can afford a piano, getting a piano is a great idea, as long as you can put it in tune. A lot of old pianos that you might get on Craigslist or something are so far out of tune that you can't put them in tune without possibly breaking strings, and it can be detrimental, I think, to play on an out of tune piano for too long. Not just like one or two notes that need tweaking, but an entire piano that's at like A430 or like that can mess you up, and it can ruin your chance of like knowing if you have perfect pitch also. So up to you, but I think a good digital piano is a great place to start, and that'll never go out of tune. And make sure that you get something kind of solid, and don't let them upsell you. Maybe you can find something on Craigslist, or ask your friends on Facebook what's a good one to get. I don't know good ones to get. I've never owned a digital piano, but when I have to play them, I don't mind them at all. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know, Mandigo. What's your name, Mandeep? You gotta get yourself a coach. That's like too hard of a question to ask in a YouTube live. Linda, I'm so glad that you found some of my videos valuable. That's amazing. Trying to think why I started doing this live stream today, and if there was anything that I wanted to talk about that I didn't talk about. But I suppose that doesn't matter. I just kind of wanted to tell you how I'm feeling about the state of musicians right now and the things that are happening in the world. I know people are going back and getting some gigs right now too, and that's a good thing. I think they're staying safe. Harry, that's a question. Do I think it's possible? And he has a show on BBC Radio, and he decided to play one of my tracks, like on Tuesday or Monday, and talk all about me for like a minute. Maybe more. He talked about my YouTube channel. He talked about, I just couldn't believe it. My eyes got all teary while I was listening to it. But anyway, one of the things he said was that he discovered my YouTube channel because he's trying to learn all the things that he skipped. So he said, I mean, he's become a star without any formal training, just by using his ears and copying people all along. Well, it happens. I think it can happen quite a lot. But the problem with that is that you don't know what to call things. When I was in high school, I was discovering all kinds of musical concepts. And all I wanted to know was, what do I call that? Because I knew I was going to go study music in college, and once I got there, I wanted to sound like I knew something. I didn't want to just play a dominant sharp 9 chord and say, oh, let's play this right here. I wanted to know, hey, thank you for that tip. That's really nice. I wanted to know what it was called and be able to say, let's play the dominant sharp 9 and sound like I had a clue. And then, of course, being in music school, like just as a music major, you have to learn all kinds of stuff that will be advantageous to you so that you understand the workings of music, and you understand when you hear something, what it's called. That's a lot what it is. You hear it, you like it, or you don't like it. What's it called? How can I tell somebody that I don't like that? I don't like Picardy thirds. This is just an example, but if you don't know what it's called, when a song's been in minor the whole time and all of a sudden it ends on this really, really happy major chord, then you don't know what to call it, and you're talking about it, you're not going to sound as smart as you might otherwise. So a lot of ways it just helps you to be able to communicate with people. Well, check out, listen to Danny Elfman, right? All of those films that he's scored, and he didn't have formal training. He was lucky enough to get into the business and be able to have somebody to orchestrate for him and kind of translate his playing into score. But he did it. I don't know. You can get lucky, but it's hard to get lucky, and just in general. I'm just kidding. It's hard to get lucky like that. And I think knowing what you're talking about is really helpful. Plus, it's fun. I mean, if you like music, you're gonna like learning what everything's called. Yeah. Well, everybody, that's been about an hour, and I think that's awesome and good. And thank you for hanging out with me. And let's I'll skate one more time, and so we'll have like some horrible skating at the beginning of the video, and then probably more horrible skating at the end of the video, and that'll be it. And we'll end it. You're welcome. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope everybody has a good weekend. I hope that your weekend can look different than your weekdays. Oh, I know what I wanted to say too. Being a musician, I mean, most of the time you can be your own boss. And that's awesome, right? Like if you get to set your own hours and work when you want to and not work when you don't want to, maybe as long as you can collect an unemployment check. It's awesome to be your own boss. Don't ever take that for granted. Like, it's awesome to just be able to go out and skate down the street if you want to at noon on a Friday or whatever it is. All right, we'll flip the camera. Show the dang flip-flop on the skateboard. Take off a little bit. This makes me feel like surfing right here. Ooh, just a little down. Everybody, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Aimee Nolte Music.